When you received this email from your IRS supervisor after Hunter Biden's guilty plea, thank you for your commitment to the mission, which culminated in a great conviction.
Those are words that are not supported by the actions of the agency.
What you're saying is that within the IRS, there is disparate treatment of American taxpayers.
What they call it is sensitive investigations.
But sensitive investigation sounds like code for powerful elite people.
There's a list in the Internal Revenue Manual that says what a sensitive person is, and it's exactly that.
There was no question in your mind the big guy was Joe Biden.
We corroborated the big guy was Joe Biden, yes.
We knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
There were a lot of overt investigative steps that we were not allowed to take because we had an upcoming election.
When we were doing the interviews, the prosecutors specifically told us that they didn't want to ask about the big guy because they knew it was Joe Biden.
You came forward as whistleblowers. Your information was accurate, yet you're sitting here today with us alleging that you've been punished every step of the way by the government bureaucracy.
IRS has a smothering blanket on me, hoping that I quit, that they find some way to terminate me or commit suicide or something.
And I'm up against a machine that has millions of dollars, that has the ability to fight me.
People have to have confidence justice is going to be administered fairly, regardless of who you are.
Is Hunter Biden's guilty plea in the federal tax case vindication?
Yeah, I absolutely believe so. I mean, he pled straight up to what was in the indictment.
To see the risks that Joe and I took, to buck that bureaucracy, which is the IRS, and to go directly against Department of Justice and directly the White House, it was validation, it was vindication, and I wouldn't have changed anything.
This is the first joint interview with IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler after Hunter Biden pleaded guilty in September to felony and misdemeanor tax charges. This internal IRS email, exclusively shared with our investigative team, shocked the whistleblowers.
When you received this email from your IRS supervisor after Hunter Biden's guilty plea, calling it a great conviction, what was your response?
I honestly couldn't believe that it happened. I literally, first person I called was Gary, and I'm like, can you believe that this was sent?
Those are words that are not supported by the actions of the agency.
Thank you for your commitment to the mission, which culminated in a great conviction. I almost see you rolling your eyes as I read this. Now you're shaking your head.
Yeah. This to me was someone who knows that IRS watchdog right now is looking into the way that they've handled this, and they see the writing on the wall. And this really is an example of just covering their backside, like a true bureaucracy.
Shapley and Ziegler walked us through hundreds of now public tax records. They zeroed in on alleged double standards at the IRS.
I recently had an internal attorney for IRS come to me and say that the way that the process is set up, it almost creates this preferential treatment for these elite and large companies because, when it was Hunter Biden, it required additional approvals for every single thing that we did. Meanwhile, the local businessman, I don't need any special permissions. I just go and do the investigation.
What you're saying is that within the IRS, there is disparate treatment of American taxpayers.
What they call it is sensitive investigations.
But sensitive investigation sounds like code for powerful elite people.
There's a list in the Internal Revenue Manual that says what a sensitive person is, and it's exactly that. Politicians, CEOs of companies, high net worth individuals, and then it requires countless additional approvals to work that investigation.
The IRS whistleblowers went further, alleging a double standard for political campaigns under the Biden-Harris Justice Department.
I wanted to get your reaction to this recent filing by Special Counsel Jack Smith. It's 165 pages, allegations against former President Trump, who's also a presidential candidate. And this was made public just a month before the election.
Compared to what happened in our investigation, there were a lot of overt investigative steps that we were not allowed to take because we had an upcoming election. And it related to the president's son, so not even the candidate. And we weren't allowed to do certain investigative steps.
This filing by Jack Smith in the Trump case would never have happened if the names were swapped and it was Hunter Biden?
Based on what we saw in the Hunter Biden case, that document would have never been released 4 weeks before an election.
So you're talking about a double standard in the Justice Department.
Department of Justice created a precedent as it relates to ongoing investigations and elections in the Hunter Biden case. And if they don't follow that precedence and they do something much more aggressive, then it's clear to me that there's some type of double standard.
4 years ago this month, and 3 weeks before the presidential election, Hunter Biden's laptop, a key piece of evidence in the IRS tax case, was wrongly labeled Russian disinformation.
In our investigation, we knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
Yes.
Based on the notes of this October 2020 meeting, the FBI and IRS, when did they know the laptop was real?
It was many months before October 2020. We were confirming certain aspects of it that it was real and legitimate as far back as late 2019.
Why was the Hunter Biden laptop reporting suppressed in October of 2020?
There was various reporting of people saying that it's potentially Russian disinformation. And one of those people is the current Secretary of State. His name was in a lot of the emails that were turned over to the House Ways and Means Committee that were on Hunter Biden's laptop. There's definitely a conflict of interest there.
In October 2020, Antony Blinken was a longtime aide to then-candidate Joe Biden. According to congressional testimony, Blinken set into motion the events that led 51 former intelligence officials to cast doubt on the laptop.
I mean, it was clear that it was a campaign to discredit that information before an election. Ultimately, I guess you can conclude that it was for the purpose of affecting that election.
When you heard dozens of former intelligence officials say the laptop had the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, you knew that was false.
Yeah, and I mean, as a special agent, as a criminal investigator, and what I know, what I do, I don't know how they could have come to that conclusion regarding this laptop.
It was misinformation to try to make something else look like misinformation.
To be clear, the investigative team, IRS, FBI, Justice Department, they knew the laptop was real. But if a member of that team spoke up publicly, then prosecutors would go after them.
Us, at that time, releasing information that the laptop was real, a special agent that's on the case, that would have been potentially a violation of the tax code.
Very early in the Hunter Biden case, the whistleblowers say investigators identified the players in this May 2017 email about a potential deal with a Chinese energy firm that reads 10 held by H for the big guy.
But there was no question in your mind, based on the universe of data, that the big guy was Joe Biden.
We corroborated that the big guy was Joe Biden, yes.
Did your supervisors accept that the big guy was Joe Biden?
There was no question ever that the big guy was referring
I don't think
to
that.
Joe Biden.
So FBI, IRS, everyone understood that.
And that's why when we were doing the interviews, the prosecutors in Delaware specifically told us that they didn't want to ask about the big guy because they knew it was Joe Biden.
Did President Biden financially benefit from his son's business deals?
This whole thing at the end of the day was about enriching a family, enriching the Biden family through access to an administration. Through all these different financial transactions, you see various members of the Biden family, to include James Biden, receiving money through a lot of these deals that were set up. How do these foreign officials pay U.S. politicians? By paying their families.
The Democrats say there's no smoking gun evidence. Is there smoking gun evidence?
Yeah, I would say that there is a lot of various emails, documents that when put together, it shows this access.
As the Hunter Biden case agent, Ziegler pointed out this document and the phrase, interesting to me and my family.
This is an August 2017 email from Hunter Biden, and he's talking about introductions for a Chinese energy firm. Does this cross a line?
He is literally laying out the agreement that it's $30 million he is being paid over a 3-year period for introductions alone. That was definitely something that was of a big concern of ours.
For months, the whistleblowers have defended their actions and reputations in the courts after Hunter Biden sued the IRS.
Right now, we've filed a motion to intervene because our interests aren't aligned with IRS's interests. We feel as though they're not fully defending us, and we believe it's part of that blanket to retaliate against us.
According to the court records, you're both accused of violating federal tax privacy laws. In the footnote, the Justice Department writes that the U.S. disputes that the IRS employees' alleged disclosures violated these tax privacy laws.
Yeah.
Does the fact that this is a footnote speak volumes?
Oh, absolutely. And it's really, again, it's other things, right? If they don't adequately defend us and there's some adverse finding, or they enter into some type of agreement with Hunter Biden that we violated something, our jobs are on the line. Our livelihood's on the line. I mean, heck, they can even come and prosecute us, but they know, Department of Justice knows, Abby Lowell knows that we didn't violate anything.
We followed the whistleblower law. We researched the guidance on it. We went and testified in a deposition in front of the House Ways and Means Committee. They voted that information out.
The whistleblowers have filed a $20 million defamation suit against Hunter Biden's attorney.
As alleged in that filing, there were certain statements made that they knew were false and that had a defamatory effect on our reputations and the future of our employment, that has damaged our reputation potentially irreparably.
Have you had other IRS employees reach out to you about coming forward as whistleblowers?
Yes, I have. Other people within the agency.
Is it fair to say that IRS employees are watching your case, and the way you're treated will decide if they're willing to take the risk and come forward?
Absolutely. I think they're wading through the process. They're seeing what happens to Gary and I, the personal and professional effect on our lives. And I think that makes a huge difference.
What was the personal cost of coming forward?
Do it again in a heartbeat. It was the right thing to do, but I've lost personal relationships. The toll of the depression has been pretty debilitating. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm just like anyone out there. I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm surviving as best as I can, and I'm up against a machine that has millions of dollars, that has the ability to fight me and to really wear you down.
IRS is just has a smothering blanket on me, hoping that I quit, that they find some way to terminate me, or they probably hope that I commit suicide or something. My career's over. You know, the way IRS is treating me, the way DOJ's Department of Justice is treating me.
You came forward as whistleblowers. Your information was accurate. There's now a guilty plea in the Hunter Biden case. Yet you're sitting here today with us alleging that you've been punished every step of the way by the government bureaucracy.
Immediately isolated us, immediately started making our jobs more difficult, immediately taking away promotion potentials.
People look at this and say, Hunter Biden's tax case, the laptop, I mean, why does it still matter? His father is not seeking re-election.
Well, it's not about the election. It's about confidence in this government, the United States government. And people have to have confidence. Justice is going to be administered fairly, regardless of who you are.